Linas Linkevicius tonight is at UATV English studio, ex-Foreign Minister of Lithuania. Linas, hello.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. The pleasure is all mine. Let's go straight forward. Ukraine's prospects in NATO and obstacles on the way to it, as is my first question. But we have been discussing the topic numerous times. But I'm going to ask a question in a straightforward manner. Is NATO too weak to accept Ukraine, do you think?
NATO too cautious, and at the same time, you understand that we have to take decisions in NATO by consensus. So we need agreement of literally all members, and it's not so easy task. But at the same time, we have to take on board major players, and I would start from United States, which is also, as you can remember, not terribly enthusiastic on this issue. So a lot of things to be done, but it's important also for Ukraine not to deprive from this route, and also not to choose anything alternative, because anything alternative doesn't mean guarantees. And membership is the only option, I believe, what Ukraine have to choose, but definitely up to Ukrainians to make a choice.
Right. So this is nothing. It has nothing to do with the weakness of NATO. It's more like a consensus. Am I right?
You know, NATO is such a sophisticated body that any decision should be taken by consensus, and that explains a lot. And also, when we're trying to discuss sometimes what NATO can do, what kind of support NATO can provide, it has to do with the nations, first of all. Nations can provide support, nations can provide military assistance. NATO collectively cannot do much. So we should also manage expectations with regard to the NATO. That's how it explains the situation.
All right. Thank you so very much for this answer. Talking about expectations. Expectations from the next Ramstein. Well, Putin is a dictator, so he dictates his will to everyone who does not have a will on his own. So whatever the expectations from the Ramstein are, what actually you, Mr. Linkevicius, would have expect from Ramstein to happen in terms of Ukraine?
Again, when we're talking about Ramstein as a format to take decisions, not much to be expected. Exactly. I would like to expect something by that time, which time is also a moving target. And as we all know, the meeting or summit rather has been postponed. And this is quite unhelpful, because time is a very important factor. And what we would expect by that time, definitely to speed up decision-making process. First of all, to discuss, and not just to discuss, but also to make decisions to lift sanctions, lift those so-called red lines. Also to allow long-range weapons to be used by Ukrainian armed forces. It has to do with ATACMS, to Scalp, Storm Shadow systems, to accelerate also delivery of F-16s. And that's exactly what I would expect by that time.
Right.
And as we all know, the date of the summit is not yet fixed, but ministers of defense, they have to meet. There should be a meeting. It was already announced this month also. So time is going, and time is not waiting. So we have to take a decision.
Indeed, and the war is going on just together. I don't know if the directions of time going in terms of Ukraine. I've been recently hearing many voices, too much maybe voices, too many of them, that were speaking about that the war can be actually ended, or at least paused, or put it on hold. The war is paused. Let's speculate on that. So tomorrow, the ceasefire is on. So Russia will use this respite to rearm, no doubt about that. Will the West be helping Ukraine to rearm during that ceasefire? Or international institutions more likely will be returning, to usual uselessness, expressing like deepest concerns and other impotent rubbish, if you ask me. So, yeah.
I'm not terribly enthusiastic about this pause, as you said, because it has to do exactly when we are talking about this pause or break or whatever you can call it tomorrow or day after tomorrow. The situation is not helpful, not good, and definitely has nothing to do with the peace. So what we have to understand that if some kind of negotiations could take place, definitely they could place Ukraine in a stronger position than it is now. So that means it's directly related with the supply of the weapons and the issues and questions and decisions I just talked before. So this is important. And also, despite the skepticism and slow decision-making process, especially from the side of the United States, I still have some hope, so to say, that President Biden is accomplishing his term in office, and it has to do with his political legacy. It has to do with something substantial to be decided by the end of his term. And this trip to Germany, even if it's postponed, but it's not cancelled, by the way, it will take place anyway. It will be very important because it will be probably the last trip to Europe by current president. So everything speaks about the necessity or possibility to expect something substantial to be decided or to be announced. So that's why I believe this is really important and that it's not going to happen.
Thank you so very much. Amen to that. Talking about the Force, I have little something here. This is a lightsaber from Star Wars. Yeah, that is a very secret and very powerful weapon. It has been made in China. My question is, if this is a weapon that has been made in China, why do I have to ask China's permission to put it on purpose, to use it on purpose? This is what's happening actually with all these long-range weapons that we have but we cannot use. Why do we have to? I mean, I know there is a reason. I just want to know it.
No, there are rules, especially when you're getting weapons, especially weapons from some country. Definitely that country, there's end user certificate usually. And usually if you're using them yourself, it's okay. But if you're trying to use them somehow in another way, you have to get permission. And the bad side of this story is that not just ATACMS as purely American weapons should be given a permission by the United States, but even weapons like, let's say, Storm Shadow or Scalp also should be kind of consented by the United States. Even when we're talking about delivery of jets, fighters, not just F-16s, but let's say the Gripens by Sweden, also a lot of systems are produced by United States, and also they need consent by United States. And so that's why so-called F-16 coalition was created by countries which are not delivering F-16 precisely, but they are part of that coalition, part of collective thinking, part of the decision-making process, which, as we just discussed recently, this decision-making process, speed of this decision-making process takes too much time, and that's not acceptable. So I definitely believe that by the meeting of, by the summit, or by at least the meeting of these defense ministers, must be some movement in this regard, because otherwise to talk about anything like negotiations in this situation from these positions we do have now, it will not be profitable for Ukraine. It will not be fair approach to the situation. And I hope, and I not just hope, but I know that our colleagues in the West also know that. So that means it's also yet another argument why we should speed up ourselves in this regard.
Again, I couldn't agree more. And thank you so very much mentioning time, and may the Force be with you. Thank you so much for your time and expertise.
Appreciate. Разом до перемоги.
До перемоги, разом до перемоги. Героям слава. Дякую.